What's going on, Smash My here? Thank you for coming through. Like, and this is one of the conversations that, like, one of the first conversations of note that I remember my grandfather having with me, because I assumed that the outcomes and everything that he had were actually based on, having a bunch of people with him, and it turns out it wasn't. Everything was not that case. Even though everybody knew what he did, he knew what was exploited through different times in history. He'll be 110 this year in December. But it's very clear that people did not understand what went on, man. It like a lot of people didn't understand that and how he was willing to work alone and willing to not work with other people to make things the way it was. It wasn't the fact that he was surrounded by better people that actually propelled him to where he was. He was surrounded by people who was far less than he was that actually made him rise to the occasion to do everything that he did in life. It was not based on the principle that all these other things have been prepared for him. He didn't really care about the outcome until he had kids. And once he had kids, that's when things started to actually crystallize for him. Once he has a specific outcome. And I would dare to say that it was pretty much based on the fact that, because he had a lot of kids, 13, in fact. And it was just that he was never surrounded by better people. He was never surrounded by better people. Better people was what he raised out of that environment itself. That's what it was. It was better people that had to been trained out of that situation so that way they could be better to actually compete with society itself. Like I said, like a lot of people didn't like the work ethic of people from the South at the time, but most of those, and there was mostly women on my dad's side of the family, right? So most women knew how to do roofing, carpentry, everything else that was taught by him. So it's like, dude, you're not gonna meet a different and a better group of people. You're supposed to meet them at the start. And if you cannot meet them at the start, you're not gonna meet them at the finish line when you got something that they want. Because most of these counterparts are not promoting their actual position. The men are. The men are promoting their position is because they're trying to benefit off of people who don't know better than the actual environment itself. But you have to understand that, bro, listen, nobody was surrounded by better people. They wasn't. It's a cultural handout that people were actually surrounded by better people. My grandfather was not surrounded by any more better people than I'm surrounded by, than my father was surrounded by any of those other. What's going on here, Ray? What's going on, Howard? And it's like, look, it's a cultural thing. It is a cultural thing, and it is a cultural handout. Like if you never had any of the prospects or the respect for peace, you're not going to be able to respect it once it's handed down by somebody who doesn't really care about the outcome. So you have to understand that a lot of arrested development is actually surrounded by the actual aspect of trolling. People who actually do want a good outcome. Like this is where it's at right now. You have to understand that most people who ain't gotten their stuff together within life, like those are not the people who you need to be able to bring around you right now. Because they're looking for the level in people who haven't exercised a level of standards so that way they can just come in and just take your gains and just move to other people. Like that's been the actual societal norm for most people out here. Gone goes. So you guys have to understand that, dude, the better people that you're going to be around is where you're going. It's not going to be where you're from, where you're currently at. It's going to be where you're headed off to, way off into the future. But since most people are actually preordained or predestined to give away the height of their value to people that don't respect it, this is where we currently are with the actual growth process with most people. You have to understand that you still got to be able to move on, to move forward, to move ahead, to be able to analyze things that are actually going. You have to know the cultural and the historical track record of the things that you're trying to change. Because there could be a lot of things that you're trying to change that's just not going to be able to work, especially when you introduce some people into it. Like if a lot of these people don't have the actual cultural relevance to actually do these things, there's no way they're going to be able to move forward from these things. This is why the actual conversation stagnates around relationship type issues. If the actual relationship type issues were to be solved with the same people, then we would have a hell of a lot of more success cases. But the success case is right now is pretty much based on you settling for things that are beneath you within the environment itself. That's not even right or true or correct toward the person who are even growing up in and think that they're going to actually move forward from it. Because there's no guide point through this actual murky muck of water that you're actually looking at. The act of being surrounded by better people is an individual choice at some point. It doesn't matter the people who you grew up with. I looking at my dad's and granddad's generation, dude, the people are still here. There's still people who are 90 something, 100 something years old in Mississippi I can go to right now. They can tell me about the people right now from different generations who had not changed. They don't want you to actually understand the actual ability to understand the level of choice by a person who cares about the actual outcome. Because if you care about the actual outcome and the things you're actually thinking about, the actual advice from the individual who don't care about the outcome just falls away very quickly. But if you can make them explain the actual outcomes and make them responsible for it, those are the things that are very good for everybody involved, except for the people who benefit off of the constant chaos of the environment itself. You gotta understand that most of this actual thing that you think is going to be celebrated by other people, do you don't have to witness it for yourself. You're going to have to witness it for yourself for a very specific reason. The very specific reason that you're going to have to witness it for yourself is because these individuals who want to take, corrupt, and destroy it are here for a very specific reason that is outside of order. And that's why it is always has been. You have to understand how easy it is at this point to keep up nonsense. You actually pretend like you're trying to help men with the nonsense that you keep up. This is just what we are, man. A lot of people don't want to move forward. A lot of people are comfortable with the way the situation is. with the way things are. It's obvious. Then you have older individuals who come by and actually misappropriates or use the actual people within the environment who don't understand what's going on for their own benefit. All of this stuff is historical data. It's not even that hard to look up, not even that hard to process, and definitely not hard to figure out that these people are full of garbage whenever they are trying to cite such things. But if you put the onus on the people who actually have the things already figured out to actually keep defending people who don't actually wake up and do the preeminence of the bare minimum, which is challenge these actual things, like you're actually wasting our time. Like you can always go on to better cultured men who actually have this stuff under control and actually work with them versus the actual people within the society who don't even care about progress. That's a very easy thing to do. But a lot of people who are culturally inept now want to be the cultural leaders of tomorrow. So that way they can be able to hold the conversation hostage about progress, unless it actually concerns certain precepts of actual progress itself. That's really not the way things work, but that's the way it has been working. And you have to realize that you can actually let all this stuff go and still have a better outcome today. Now, the actual people who you're actually defending in their actual actions, they still don't respect you anyway, because that's the way this stuff has always been had. Should the real thing for the final super sticker. But that's where we at. That is where we are. And you have to realize that a lot of people want these things the way that it currently is. A lot of them. They don't come out and say it implicitly, but they mean it explicitly through their action. There's really no reason to actually think that your life is going to start the moment that you get this domestic counterpart in control. There's no reason why that should happen or is going to happen. However, my dad wasn't surrounded by better people. My grandfather wasn't surrounded by better people. And I wasn't surrounded by better people. You know what I had to do? Make better decisions, given the actual hand that I was dealt. And that's something that everybody can do. Make better short term decisions. No one talks about making better short term decisions. Everybody is always about dealing yourself into the actual certain circumstance that what's here. All of a sudden, you're going to get this unverifiable result that's going to be repeated in your generation. Strong man, black. But this is where we are. You have to understand that most of these things are preordained through culture. Like that's why people hand down culture, so that way they can have their rule be respected without them actually fighting for it on a one-to-one basis. That's what this actual cultural thing is about. None of this stuff is going to change unless you respond to it in a different way. No one ever tells you that. You know when they tell you that? The moment that you don't have the idea or the actual wherewithal to actually capitalize on basic information. A lot of people have ruined and destroyed their lives by thinking that they got this stuff under control when they clearly don't. I'm just telling you that you gotta be different and you gotta be better than those people. You cannot think about the people who want to give away the things that you actually earn within your lifetime to other people. That's not how that works. But at the end of the day, a lot of people want to gentrify the actual space and turn it into something that it was never meant to be. And rather than face the embarrassment of what they're creating, they just turn around and just point to numbers, views, click likes, hearts, and unattain money from the actual situation itself. But you have to understand, as a man, you have to be able to exert an actual standard. To actual receive an actual standard back in return in whole. But at the end of the day, if most of the men are just actually coming out here and helping the other status quo work, like what are we supposed to do with that? That stuff really doesn't help all the people. Does it? Should it? I don't think it ever has. But that's just currently where we are, man. This is where we at. And you don't have to worry about those other groups of people who don't get it because you can't team up with them anyway. You bring all the value to the table, and the only thing they want to do is take all the value from the table and provide to their new employer. That's what it is. It's not even that hard. If you want to be surrounded by better people, then focus on yourself. Get yourself straight. Get yourself together. Stop trying to be able to be great about the things within the society and the environment that don't respect you, period. There's nothing wrong with leaving these people alone for a specific period of time to where you right the ship and get your own stuff together. The only reason why they want to make this a mainstay of masculinity itself is because they know you're never going to be able to get it or get it under control or anything else. This is just what we are. This is just what we are. And you got to be able to move on to different groups of men who actually understand this. You can't stay here within the black sector of YouTube and expect these people who don't care about cultural outcomes that leave in certain aspect and positions alone. You can't really do that with those people. They've had their chance to actually move on to other things. They have. So you have to realize that going over certain types of content makes you an actual target of the actual people who are actually stuck on the same content themselves. This is why you got to be able to move on in front and in total. Because if you don't, you're going to be right down there with those people. How many people are talking about these natural disaster contracts out here? People are cleaning up in the millions. There ain't no way I could get a top level contract from these people out here. They've been stuck out here for years. But everything that is being bought through these ill-gotten gains and everything else that has to do with, male disrespect, it's only spent on the actual idea that you're more man than everybody else. It's crazy. You can actually stop these things from being done. You can actually stop these things from being exerted on you. You just got to have a better outcome that you're actually working towards. So with that said, I got about 4 hours to get some sleep, so that way I go doing this relief work. And it's an amazing thing being out here, being needed out here, make a great amount of money for things. I rather be known for the things that I'm not really known for than actually get a lot of views and likes over some dumb shit. So, well, thank you guys for coming through. You guys have got to understand that you are more than what these people preordained you for actually making it towards. Most of these people don't even care about where you end up at. They want you to listen to their nonsense. They don't even want to provide you a better path. And they don't want to be responsible for the future. I want to be responsible for all that, period. I want to be responsible for what you're listening to, what you actually enact, and the actual outcome. Because that's how I got where I got you right. Is all three of those things. Most of those other people is just trying to keep up abject ignorance within the environment, and you have to be able to see through that stuff on your own. Nobody is going to be able to walk through and give you a better blueprint than you can already recognize yourself. So with that said, you guys have a really nice night. Peace.